today we'll talk a bit about an overview of the Quaker archives in the United States, visiting Philadelphia Quaker archives in person, online resources that are available, and then we'll have time for questions and comments and conversation. There we go. All right, so hopefully it's not too hard to see, so there are 5 major Quaker repositories in the United States. They are all east of the Mississippi, probably surprising few of us. There are the 2 right outside of Philadelphia, Friends Historical Library of Swarthmore College and Haverford College Quaker and Special Collections. In Massachusetts for New England Yearly Meeting, the records are at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst. There's also the archives at Earlham College and at Guilford College. So Earlham in Indiana and Guilford in North Carolina. And the way that collecting is based in these archives is geographically. So Guilford collects mostly North Carolina and the American Southeast. Earlham is sort of the Northwest. As I said, UMass at Amherst collects New England Yearly Meeting records, and Friends Historical Library at Swarthmore collects half, approximately, of Philadelphia Yearly Meeting. So from here, from New Jersey to State College, Pennsylvania, down a little bit into Maryland, and they have both the Hicksite and post-reunification records for Philadelphia and Baltimore Yearly Meetings. They also have all of New York Yearly Meeting records, which includes Northern New Jersey. So the Haverford College Quaker and Special Collections collects that same from New Jersey to State College, and a little bit into Maryland, all of Delaware. And our focus are the pre-separation records, as well as the Orthodox records for Philadelphia and Baltimore Yearly Meetings. And we have a couple other random ones thrown in here and there, as most of us do. So you can visit us in person. So this is a view of the Friends Historical Library. They are open by appointment only, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and 1 to 4 p.m. And also some evening and Saturday hours. So checking their website is good, and those are all by appointment. At the Haverford College Quaker and Special Collections, we are open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And you can just walk right in our doors and we will help. So to prepare for an in-person visit, there's several different databases that you can use. So I'll walk us through those now. So this first one, and I know it's hard to see for those of us in person, it might be a little bit harder. So this is Tripod, which is the so Haverford and Swarthmore and Bryn Mawr are the tri-colleges. So we have a 3-college consortium, and so this is our book catalog, our book and journal and ebooks and everything like that. So in the collections, we have manuscript material, we have rare books, we have circulating books, and we have meeting records. So the things that will appear here in this database are, you're good, you're good. I don't think it can be bigger in the share. Yeah, thanks. So things that are in right now, things that are in more of our book catalogs, like our rare books, are available this way. Soon you'll be able to use this for everything. We're going to do an integration so that the next database you'll be able to use as well in this one. But we haven't quite made that import yet. Hello, come on in. So on the side, there's a way to see what books are in which library. Welcome. And so you can choose the ones that are at Haverford, or if you're going to Swarthmore, you can choose the ones there so you know what to ask for at each repository. What might be a little bit more interesting, though, is to look at the meeting records. So we have our Archives and Manuscripts database, which launched in 2017 and is basically the place where all of the meeting records and all of the organizational papers and family papers in the three colleges resides. And what we have done, because there are Quaker meeting records both at Haverford and at Swarthmore, each of our big record groups are by college. So what we've done is we've made like a big repository that is the Quaker Meetings repository. So you can both browse and search to find these records. So when you search, so I oftentimes just use Rufus Jones as my example. So you can see all of these records come up, and when you come in, there's a couple of important pieces of information that are helpful when you're working with the archivist that you're talking to. So, you know, sort of most importantly is the title of the collection, but also underneath it, it has something called the identifier. And that's usually a mixture of letters and numbers. And that gives an indication to the archivist or whoever's working the reading room desk to know what collection or what box in that collection to look for. It can get confusing to know which archives records are at because it's all three of our colleges. So there is a way to see it, like it says found in, and then it'll say Haverford or Swarthmore or Bryn Mawr. And for the Quaker records, that's at the item level because we have some not just shared collections, but like the meeting will have records at both places. So you can see it at that level. Oh, and I should say, I'll take questions at the end. So please, I'll super happy to take them, but we'll get to those. So when you're browsing so instead of searching, depends on what name you're looking for. You might get a lot of collections, or you might not actually find exactly what you're looking for. So you can browse through the record groups, and these ones are, we have one for each yearly meeting. And what it does is you kind of have this hierarchy of seeing the records. So this kind of describes the yearly meeting. And then over here in these subgroups, we have like the yearly meeting business records, and then constituent monthly, preparative, and quarterly meeting records. And so if you click on one of those, then what you get, so if you click on the monthly meeting records, then you'll get 258 collections of materials for all of the meetings. That's more meetings than are in Philadelphia right now, but that's again monthly, preparative, and quarters over time. So this again has all of this information, that kind of some just contextual information that can be helpful. So the first one here is Abington monthly meeting. So let's use that as an example so that you can see what it looks like. So on this landing page, we kind of get a little bit more information. So in the archives world, we call these finding aids. And I don't know about you, but that can be a really confusing word. What is in a finding aid? So I typically like to think of it as two different components. There's the part of the front matter, and that is all of the scope and content. So like, what are the contents of the collection? And then there's information like a biography or historical note, so you can learn more about it. You can see the date scope of the collection, as well as what we call the extent, how big it is. So that can give you some really important information of, is this one folder? Is it one box? Abington monthly meeting has 46 boxes, or linear feet. That would probably be about double that amount of boxes to go through. So a lot of material. Then the second part is the inventory. So that gives you, either at the volume level or the box level or the folder level, depending on the collection, it gives you some more information. This can be a little bit tricky to navigate, and I actually personally don't like it. It can be really hard to open up all of these carrots and kind of navigate everything. Up in the top right corner is, I call it like the little like cheat sheet corner, because there's a button for citation, which is helpful to come back to the material, but also it says print. And what it really should say is PDF. So if you click on that, it'll make a PDF that will open up on your computer or tablet or phone. And then it's all in one place. You just keep scrolling and you don't have carrots to open and close and get lost in. So those are just a couple of hints here. So now I'll shift to the online resources that are available. So this is yet again another consortial collection, and this is called the Tri-College Library Digital Collections, and this has a lot of material from Bryn Mawr, Haverford, and Swarthmore colleges, but it really doesn't have as much, I want to say, of the meeting records or genealogical records. So this has a lot more of like college archives records, some family papers, organizational records that have been digitized or are born digital materials. So for instance, the students at Haverford went on an almost 2-week strike in the fall of 2020, and our college archivist made a collection of materials that people sent to her or that she could get publicly and put it into a collection here. So you might be asking, so are these meeting records anywhere? Do I have to come in person? And the answer is no. The answer is no, you don't have to come in person. The answer is yes, they are available online. This is my first presentation that I'm doing in person since about 2019 or early 2020. So forgive my my nervousness. I've been giving this one a lot on Zoom and not as much in person. Yes, that's all right. So in about 2011, 2012, New England Yearly Meeting records weren't quite yet at UMass Amherst, but the 4 major Quaker colleges were approached by someone that worked for Ancestry.com about whether we would be interested in digitizing, having our Quaker materials digitized. And we decided that, so something that's important to know is that the Quaker meeting records at Haverford and Swarthmore, especially from Philadelphia Yearly Meeting, including Barnegat, they are all on deposit at Haverford and Swarthmore, which means that the meeting still retains, and the yearly meeting, monthly meeting still retains ownership of those records. But we have been given permission from the yearly meeting to help steward those collections, to ensure that they are not just in all of our meeting house attics, but instead are organized and taken care of, and people can have access to them in a larger systematic way. And so one of the things that we take very seriously in this is trying to maintain and make these records accessible as much as possible. And digitizing is one piece of that aspect. I think we were also hoping that we might be able to put the records into that previous repository I was talking about, that college one. It's a lot of material. It's about 17 terabytes, which is just, it's a lot. One of the great things that Ancestry has done is really to organize things in a way that is easy to browse and to search through. So for the majority of the collections, they were scanned from the beginning of the record of the meeting in existence to 1935. And the materials that were scanned included vital records, so birth, death, marriage, burial records, men's minutes, women's minutes, combined minutes, and oftentimes like worship and ministry records as well. at all of those levels. It is not 100% because each college did it slightly differently of what they really wanted to be digitized. But there's a ton of material there. In fact, there's about 7.5 million records available from these meetings. So I don't know, can I maybe get like a hand raise of folks that have used Ancestry at all, Ancestry.com before? Okay, so a few folks. So hopefully I'm not repeating too much information, but hopefully this will be helpful for everyone. So on Ancestry site, there are two ways to look at these records. You can browse them and you can search for them. So when you're on the homepage and you click search, then you can do everything. You can search, you know, census lists or military records, or you can look at their card catalog. So that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to search for Quaker. When you search for Quaker, there are 76 collections that come up. And these are different collections, and I've given talks before on all of the very different, like on the different ones, but today I'm going to focus on the largest one, which is the Quaker meeting records. And these ones are all of the ones that I was just talking about. So when you click on that, what you get is this landing page. And there's two sections to it where you can search only within this collection. So you can put in somebody's name and find where they are, where they are in these records. And then you can browse the records. One thing that I want to say is that the transcription is imperfect. So if you're expecting to find someone and you use the search function and don't find them, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not there. Ancestry oftentimes goes back and does more transcription, but oftentimes we know that there are things that are not transcribed. For instance, there are a couple books of manumission papers, and unfortunately, Ancestry transcribed the names of all of the white people, the enslavers and the clerks of the meetings, and not the people that were being admitted, which is a huge, which is awful. And also we have transcribed those and have those on a different site. But that's one really big example of how they did not transcribe every name. So in this, to browse the collection, it's a little bit funky. If they had asked me how to do it, I would have said, what about the yearly meet, like maybe the meeting state, and then the quarter, and then the monthly meeting. But that's not how they did it because they're thinking a larger scope. But one issue that so they go from the meeting state to the county to the meeting. And this can sometimes be an issue. I don't if anyone's done a lot of genealogical work from this area, the county lines have changed. And so that can be really frustrating. You have to try multiple counties, whether everything was stuck into one county or split into multiple ones. But when you do that, so for this one, for Philadelphia monthly meeting, then you have a whole list of all of the records that were digitized, mostly with the right name of the item, sometimes not. Again, imperfection. If you get really, really confused at any point with the ancestry work, I would be more than happy to help you try to decipher what you're trying to find. I actually did a lot of the scanning of the materials at Haverford, and so know a little bit more about the behind the scenes and might have some tricks up my sleeve that might be able to help you. If we click on one of those books, so this one is a book of births from 1820 to 1885. So because of what the imperfection in the titles, so you want to double check that you know what you're looking at. So if it says births, then you might want to scan through to see, even I think sometimes they took it from what it said on the beginning of the book, and that's not always how it was used, right? So you might want to flip in Ancestry. There's like a roll, like a microfilm roll, and you can kind of click through and see that you're at the right page. So you can go to the first page to see, oh, these minutes say that they start in 1885, but they actually start in 1825. So there are definitely issues like that. Let's see. So that's a little bit about browsing. And another thing about browsing these records is that while there are records that are not digitized, if you are looking for, what was my meeting doing during X amount of time, like during X time, then, particularly during the 17 or 1800s, early 1900s, then this can be a great source because you can go literally page by page through the records without leaving your home. And a note, I know that Ancestry is not a free source. Coming to Haverford is not a free source. There are very few things like that, but oftentimes local libraries will have access to Ancestry. So you can sit down, you can't usually save your own tree, but you can send images to yourself and have access to databases like these. And if you have other issues with those sorts of things, I'm happy to kind of talk through, if you need a couple images or you're like, this is after 1935, what do I do? Then you come and talk to us. We're very happy to do that. So let's see, I'm just going to take a sip of my coffee here. So as I mentioned, you can search or you can browse. And you can search just within that portal of Quaker Meeting records, or you can kind of go backwards. You can go from all of the information to try to find just the Quaker one for a person. So to do that, there's just like the regular search area, and you can put in like someone's first and last name. For this one, I chose Lucretia Mott. I know that there's a lot of records about her in Ancestry. So it's hard to see here, but there's 1.3 million records that have somebody named Lucretia Mott in them. I don't know about you. I'm not going to be looking at 1.3 million records, even if I'm very interested in Lucretia. So what you can do is put in a bit more information for as much as you have. And you might not have it. You might need to look at more records than you want in order to find who you're looking for, depending on their name or their location. There are many instances of uncles and nephews and grandfathers, all with the same first and last name, and they all lived at the same time, and it can be very difficult to decipher who was who. So you can come to stopping points at many different places, but this can help. So we can put in a little bit more information. We can narrow it down. We definitely want Lucretia Mott in there. We know when she was born and we know when she died. So once we put that information in, instead of just her name, then we have 116,000 records. I'm probably still not going to read all of them, but it kind of gives a little bit more context to it. And also something that comes up when you do that is you can further reduce the number by using the categories on the side. So if you're not finding what you want in your search results, you can go down. I believe that we are under schools, directories, and church histories. And so you can click that one, and then you'll get more of those records. Here we can see a whole bunch of the records that are coming up are from the US Quaker Meeting records. So that's really helpful. When you, one of the things that Ancestry does is if you float your cursor over the title of an item, then it'll kind of give you as much information as they have about the person. It's not necessarily even from that record, but it's about that person. So, we can see there's a lot of information here. Her full birth date, the birth date that's on the image, so those could be different. The date that she died, her age at death, where she died, where she was residing, her father, her mother, her spouse. And then something that can be helpful, but is not always helpful with ancestry records. This one says event type, death. There are a lot of Quaker records that are just miscellaneous because I think they just didn't know what to do with all of the different types of records. So things might not say minutes, for instance, they're going to say miscellaneous. So you kind of might have to be like, oh, I don't know about this miscellaneous stuff, but it might be really helpful to you. So once we click on that image, all of those things come up. We can look at the image itself even. And when we do that, we can see this was scanned from the microfilm, and it's going to be very hard for you to see far away, but it does say Lucretia Mott, a minister, widow of James Mott. And then it has her birth and death dates and her death year. And once we've clicked on it, we can see that it's from Philadelphia Monthly Meeting records from births and deaths from 1827 to 1903. As I talked about before, you can bring up this reel to kind of look around to see, oh, well, if I'm looking at Lucretia, maybe there's some other people that I'm looking for here as well. And let's see, those are the big things that I wanted to talk about today. I am always happy to take questions. My email is here. I have cards I can give out. And mostly I'd love to spend time talking and answering questions as I can, or saying, I don't know the answer, and please email me and I'll get back to you. But thank you all for coming today.